All right, guys, welcome back for the last section of Chapter 2. Today we will be talking about a mixed economy. So, we'll talk a little bit about the rise of mixed economic systems, kind of how they came to be. Additionally, we'll look at a circular flow model. So, thinking back to like the free market economy, we looked at a circular flow model for that one. And then we'll briefly compare the mixed economies of various nations across the world, um, kind of along a continuum between centrally planned on the one side, the one extreme, and completely free market on the other. So we'll kind of look at them on a continuum. Some different vocab words for this section. Laissez-faire is basically just an idea that government should not intervene in the marketplace. And then private property is obviously property that's owned by individuals rather than the government. And then a mixed economy is a market-based economic system where the government is involved to some extent. All right, so then we have an economic transition. We talked a little bit in the last section about how China started to make an economic transition in the late 1970s. So this is just a period of change where a nation moves from one economic system to another. Often includes privatization, which is the process of selling businesses or services that had previously been operated by the government off to individual investors. And then we have a free enterprise system, which we also call capitalism. It is a type of mixed economy. So in the free enterprise system, we have an economic system where investments in firms are made in the free market by a private decision, right? You decide to start a business rather than state control. So the state can't tell you, hey, we need this, will you make this? That decision is made privately. So lots of free market principles involved in the free enterprise system or capitalism. So, what are the characteristics of a mixed economy? In a mixed economy, we have a free market-based economy with some degree of government intervention. So the government oftentimes will help societies meet needs that would be too difficult for them to meet under a totally free market. One example of that would be like education. Education in the United States is publicly funded, so it's ran by the government. If education was privately funded, and there are, of course, private schools and charter schools and so on and so forth, but if it was fully privately funded and the need for profit was there, there would be a lot of students that didn't get the opportunity to go to school because they couldn't afford tuition, right? So we leave education up to the government to take care of. More recently, there's discussions about like healthcare. Like, can the private sector really take care of that industry in a way that is positive for consumers? Or should that be something the government kind of takes over? And there's differing viewpoints on that, absolutely. And then in a mixed economy, the government protects private property rights and ensures that exchanges in the marketplace are safe and fair. So in the United States, we have like the FDA, which makes sure that our food and pharmaceuticals are safe for consumption, so on and so forth. So even free market thinkers like Adam Smith, we talked about him a couple sections back, recognized that there was a need for a limited degree of government involvement in the economic marketplace. So in a mixed economy, the market is free, but there's a certain degree of government control. You can do this, you can't do this, so on and so forth. So one reason that a government would play a role in an economy, we talked about like providing public education, even providing like a national defense is something that the government can do better than private industry. It sets up protections for private property that's included in our Bill of Rights in the United States. And again, it ensures fair and safe exchanges in the marketplace. So this is the circular flow model for a mixed economy. So you have the product market. In the product market, we have monetary flow from households to firms. So households use their income, they give it to firms, and as a result, they receive goods or services. However, households, when they buy that good or service, they're going to pay some taxes to the government, right? Like in the form of a sales tax. Likewise, in the product market, firms will often sell their goods and services to the government, right? They'll sell whatever, maybe they make ammo. They'll sell that to the government for military use. In the factor market, the monetary flow of income comes from firms into households, right? Because households in the physical flow give their labor to those firms. So you give your labor in the physical flow and you get income back in the monetary flow. A household may choose to sell their labor or their factors of production to the government, right? So they may be a government employee. And then firms in the factor market need to pay taxes, payroll taxes, when they pay income to households. So they're going to pay a percentage in as the firm for, in the United States, like Social Security and Medicare and so on and so forth. The government then takes this revenue from taxes and they redistribute that in expenditures. So they may give firms money to jumpstart an investment, or they may give households money to get the economy up and running again. So how are governments involved in the product market? As I mentioned in the circular flow model, the government buys labor in the factor market to have employees help run their programs. The government also purchases goods and services from firms in the product market. Additionally, the government will collect taxes from both households and firms in both the product and the factor markets. So the checkpoint answer for this one in particular about the product market would be that the government purchases goods and services from firms in the product market. Now, most modern economies are mixed economies. So the figure below shows a continuum of mixed economies in today's world. So the question asks, why is China a little bit further to the right on the diagram than Cuba? You can see both of them kind of fall into the centrally planned economy portion of this continuum, but China is further to the right because they are less restrictive. They have more free market principles than Cuba. You can see that the United States is pretty far right, actually just under my little picture here, on this continuum, meaning we are mostly a free market, but we do have some government intervention as well. So North Korea represents one extreme of the continuum, right? They are fully a command economy. Their economy is almost totally dominated by the government. The government owns all property and all resources and determines all output of goods and services. The United States, as I mentioned, is a mixed economy with a foundation in the free market. It is called a free enterprise system, or capitalism. And then Hong Kong represents one of the world's freest markets. Hong Kong is currently experiencing some turmoil because they kind of operate independently of China at the moment. But there have been conflicts in the past year or so where China is kind of trying to step in and maybe take back over Hong Kong, so on and so forth. But in Hong Kong, the private sector rules. The government has protections for private property. It rarely interferes in the market, aside from establishing wage and price controls, so like a minimum wage. They have price controls on rent and some public services. And then in the American government, we intervene in the economy in a few different ways, but mostly with a few different goals in mind here. Keeping order, law and order, providing vital services, making sure people's basic needs are met, basically. Promoting the general welfare, again, that kind of goes with meeting basic needs. We have federal and state laws that protect private property, but overall the marketplace operates with a limited degree of government regulation. People that live in the United States enjoy a high level of economic freedom. Foreign investment and free trade is encouraged. The banking industry operates with relatively few restrictions. All right, that is the end of chapter 2. Looking forward to hearing your questions. Have a great rest of your day.